Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Dylan D, and welcome to video 2 of how to build giant robots in Minecraft, step 2, part 1. If you haven't watched video 1 with the explanation and tutorial from Mega Gargantua's StartStop Trigger, then I very much encourage you to watch that video first. As well, there are announcements, updates, and a few surprises in the first video that I'm sure none of you want to miss, which there is a link in the description to that video below. But here in video 2 of step 2, part 1, we will be covering the start-stop triggers of the Rapticus and the big front legs that sort of resemble the Colossus. Now, I will not be building the Colossus, but an entirely different design altogether that honestly is still really awesome and that I know all of you will very much enjoy. But in this video, we will just focus on the block for block tutorial and very in-depth explanation of different start-stop triggers. Alright, so first up I'd like to talk about the Rapticus engine and start-stop trigger. So here is the engine for the Rapticus. Now I know this looks extremely complicated, but literally all this is this. It works exactly the same as this little device right here. It's just 4 engine cycle, and what I mean by that is this is the engine that's obviously ignited, and then it starts here and then it moves down this way. This is your second engine. As soon as this block moves forward and updates this sticky piston, then it'll move down this way and it'll update this one, and this one is your third engine here, and then it'll move up this direction as signaled by this block, as you can kind of see. This will be your fourth engine here, and as soon as it updates, it will push this whole segment forward. And of course, since this one was already, this engine was pushed forward one block already, this sticky piston will be sitting right over this block here. So what will happen is this will move forward, and then the whole device will come with you as well. One more time, one more time, one more time, and it'll just keep going into the distance. But yeah, and there's no real way to stop it, of course, but in order to put this device on there, we have to just kind of change some stuff around. Now, I will be doing this with each one of these robots here because each one of their engines and start-stop triggers are very different. So, hey, that's kind of fun, and we can get to see at least 3 different trigger possibilities that you could use for giant robots. And yeah, and I can show you how to hook, and I will block for block show you how to hook them up to a design that you wish to hook it up to. But yeah, for this one here, I could show you real quick that it of course moves forward, and by simply, of course, we don't have a start stop trigger on it, so we'll just use a piece of obsidian. Now, the reason it looks so complicated is obviously just for shape, for look, and that's literally it. I wanted it to look like a pelvis, like a hip structure of a dinosaur, and I think I tackled that pretty well. Now, this right here, if I move this obsidian, this whole piece, this whole machine here will activate again. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just place obsidian here and here so we don't have that issue. Then I can actually remove this. I didn't have to remove this. I just, you know, kind of OCD about it. Has to look nice. Now, it is perfectly back to the way it was. It would still, even if this piston was where I had just had it, it would still work just fine once you updated it again. But, you know, just for look purposes for everyone, I'm going to change it back to this. Now, let's go ahead and add in the start-stop trigger. Now, what we're going to have to go ahead and do is take out this whole piece that's pushed forward, and that's just a clear space, obviously. Now, this piston here will also have to move, so go ahead and just drop that out. Now, in the actual design, there's more blocks over here that do stuff, but we're not worried about that. But I do, in fact, need to come out 2 blocks from this sticky piston here. But now, once I've done that, from here, I can come out an additional 2 blocks and then put a piston right here. Now, once I've done this, you can see that I've cleared up a lot of room, basically. Like, I've given myself a lot of room to go. And what I mean by this is I can easily, from 1, 2, 3 blocks, and then if I place one here, obviously, I'm only basically 4 blocks away from this sticky piston, from this piston, this regular piston here, which, you know, good to go. I'm not going to have to waste, you know, 12 blocks putting it into place. So knowing that, all you got to do is place another piston here, but this piston here, this will be the pusher for your trigger. Of course, you want something that will push the trigger itself, and then you want something that will push what updates the engine again to keep moving. Now, we want the engine to keep moving, right? So let's just go ahead and we're going to place slime blocks here like this. Now, the reason we want to do this is because when we place a sticky piston here, it'll have a redstone block right in front of it. So when it updates this sticky piston, when it is updated, it will push this redstone block directly underneath this sticky piston, and it'll push it back, and so the next time that it's updated, it'll yank it back out, and this whole machine will start. Now, of course, that's just for this, so that means this will, as soon as it hits back to this point, as soon as this sticky piston grabs this redstone block, this will turn into that little trigger thing that we had just before this, where it has just the regular prismarine block that was underneath the sticky piston, and it slides it out from, and it like would slide it out from underneath it. This redstone block acts as if it was that prismarine block at that time, because then this sticky piston, when it slides above the redstone block, is just butted. So it acts just like it, and we're good to go. Now, to make this piston move, what do we know about pistons altogether? That if we can push something that looks exactly like this, right? So if this is at that angle, it's diagonal from it, then to show you guys real quick, I'll replace all this and come right here, and you can actually place a redstone block just like this, and that will actually update that piston down there. And that's like a little trick that you can do. It's kind of like, wow, you know, it looks kind of complicated, but it's a trick. So what happens is this will get pushed forward. This piston will push this whole segment forward when it is moved forward, because this redstone block here will update it. Now, it wouldn't, okay, so the piston moving forward first updates the piston. If this redstone block was to move into place for the piston, like let's say, like watch, if I put a redstone block here, that piston doesn't do anything. So that literally, the piston moving underneath these slime blocks is actually what updates it. So it will update it, and then they will actually activate it because of the redstone block, and then boom, you're good to go, because then it's just this whole segment as its separate entity will move forward, and it'll grab this redstone block off of the top of these slime blocks, and of course this piston here is extended so it isn't brought forward. And yeah, and it'll just keep going and going. Now this is your essential piece right here. Boom, good to go. Now we want to make sure that we can update this sticky piston to do the job we want it. Now if we had this piston here, right here, I mean, we could try to do this, but as you can tell, we would need something that looks like this. Because with a trigger, you need something that is just like this, because if this was a slime block, it would pick up this piston every time you activated it. Every time you activated this sticky piston. But as you can see, it's not going to pick that up at all. So, but knowing this, we don't have to be so far away from this device if we back this piston up one block. So, and what I mean by that is, to make it more compact, we can back this piston up one block, and when this block here actually comes back and is pushed forward by this piston, and as long as you have slime blocks back here, it will push this whole little segment forward, and this block here won't get trapped or snagged by this slime block at all. It'll just move it forward regularly. Now, knowing that, all we have to do is literally come over here and put like slime blocks in, like, oh, I want to have a redstone block here, obviously, so I can update this piston to release this redstone block and then to grab it again, you know, and that's all we really want this to do. So in order to do that, I'm just going to throw more slime blocks across the top like this, and then we're going to add a sticky piston right here, obviously, because we'll be sitting, you know, somewhere up there. So then once we have this to the overall build, obviously nothing's going to happen. But if we were to throw a redstone block down right now, everybody's alarms that no slime blocks right now are going off, because right here on the opposite side of this sticky piston, there needs to be another block, or else when I update this, it was just going to go, it's just going to freak out, and all we're going to have is a broken machine. So make sure on the opposite side of any triggered sticky piston, you have just a regular block. And even if it's a slime block, that's fine, of course, too. You know, you do what you do. It could even be a glass block, which I don't have on me right now, but it could be a glass block, and that's perfectly fine as well. As long as you know slime block basics, it's not going to catch up to any other piece of the machine, and you're good to go. Now, as soon as I literally do this, the redstone block is activated and moved back, and that's it's that easy. Now once you have this and you're in this position, all you have to do is update this sticky piston again, and this whole machine will move forward. And as soon as it starts moving forward, yeah, you guys will see. That redstone block right there acts just like that block right here by updating the engine again when it moves forward. Because when it slides over the redstone block, it's budded. It's no longer like in active form until it moves out from under it. It's just updated like a normal block. Then of course, you want to stop it as soon as it moves forward. And boom, what happens is if you saw that redstone block catches up with this sticky piston one more time. Because then it moves this forward, and as soon as it moves forward, the redstone block is actually out of place, and the redstone block moves into the position in which it is updated and back into this extended position. And boom, there you have it. There's your StartStop engine for the Rapticus. Alright, and one last little note about the actual placement of this redstone block versus this sticky piston here. So let's say we have a quick trigger, so one that looks just like this, or a block updater, I guess you could say, which looks just like this. Now when this sticky piston is updated, obviously it moves. Now some sort of other block updater will obviously update another form of trigger. So obviously there'll be something coming off of it like this to update some other form of piston or sticky piston. But right here, what's going to happen is since this redstone block, or whatever block it is that you're using, if this was already a trigger, but we'll get to that in a second. If this redstone block that you're using here isn't actually touching this sticky piston to begin with, what's going to happen when I update it is it's just going to update this sticky piston halfway, basically. So it's going to move in and then move out so fast that it's just going to let go of this block. Now, since it's let go of this block, this is actually what we need to do something like this, because what happens is if you just place an extra slime block out here, when this zero tick pulses this redstone block out of the way, this whole segment will still move forward, this little segment right here, and the redstone block will then be pulled underneath the sticky piston instead of being pulled out from underneath it in the right time. It'll be pulled directly underneath it, so where it'll stop the engine. And that's literally the only concept that we're using here, is for this, to literally back and forth that redstone block. Now, of course though, if you wanted this to move at the exact same time, we'd have to kind of make this a trigger really fast. Go ahead and place a block there. See, as you can tell, when we update this, it does the same thing as up here. But we can actually, if you place a block and it's touching the trigger first before you activate anything, that, as you can see, will always bring the rest of the device back with you. But yeah, if you aren't touching, if you aren't touching that sticky piston right away though, it's just gonna zero tick it away, unless this is a redstone block. And yeah, there's about every different way you can look at that that little machine there. So yeah. Alright, so for this little engine here, these legs right here are just the front legs of Gargantua, but kind of the feet are a little bit mimicked towards the Colossus legs. There's nothing to do with the Colossus, it's just to show you two legs individually instead of the all four legs. This design here though, is this engine. It doesn't need to be simplified obviously, because the engine up here is obviously simple enough. There's some Caterpillar engines coming off the sides of course, but this is the main circuit of the engine, so this is all that we'll be dealing with. And of course, to stop this engine, we actually won't be having to get rid of this piece here. This will still update this sticky piston, since this engine will be our first sticky piston that we update. We'll update this one, and then it'll eventually go full circuit all the way around all these engines, and then come back up this way, and then this will move forward, updating this one again, and that's your cycle. Now, in order to do this, the StartStop trigger that we're going to want to place on here needs to move at the exact same time that this engine moves, or else the redstone block that we have to place right here to update this sticky piston will catch up to it, and it'll just stop the build. Now of course, we can't just place a slime block here either, because what do we learn from there? If this is a trigger, it's just going to grab that piston and it's going to pull that piston forward as an engine, and that's not what we want. So what we're going to go ahead and do is just replace that slime block with a regular block, a redstone block here, and then slime blocks on the back to move this all at once. Now if these slime blocks were right here, that's obviously not going to do anything because it's just going to push this block forward one block, and then that's it. But if the slime blocks are on the back of it, what's going to happen is it'll push this block forward one, and then this slime block forward one, which this slime block's connected to this one, and this slime block's connected to this redstone block. So that'll move all forward as one little piece there. Now, knowing what's next is that this, as soon as we update this, if we like just put like a regular block here and then this is our trigger, what's going to happen is it's just going to zero tick this piece back, and we're never going to get that back. Like, oh, okay, it's just going to sit there. To prevent that, we have a redstone block. Now, this will still zero tick it back, but we'll be able to update the trigger one more time, and it will come forward. Now, this is going to be the same StartStop trigger that I've put on the angler, the flying gas turret. That's the same exact one there. I use this a lot. It's a really good design. It works really well. All you do is update it once, and then the second time it'll go. And every time you stop it after that, it just takes one flick of the flint and steel. Now, I've just added 2 slime blocks here because we want this redstone block to come with, because obviously it's the trigger. Now, we want to make sure this is under the 12 block push limit, which visually, obviously it is. So we're just going to count the blocks though to see how many. So this is 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks here, and then we have 5, 6, and then 7. Now that's good to go. And then this could be 8. Now obviously we want it to be a trigger, so we have to have a sticky piston on there somewhere. Here's the sticky piston, that will be our trigger, but of course we can't power it like this or else it's going to go crazy. We need a block right here and then a redstone block right here. Now how many blocks is that? We know this one is 4 altogether, and then we have 5. Then we come around this way, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 11. And boom, we have a block to spare. So, yeah, and what's going to happen with this is this piston will move forward at the same time that this whole engine moves forward, obviously. So you can tell with the slime blocks. And it will move this whole piece forward, and then this will travel all the way down its circuit, all the way up those blocks, back up this way, and this block will re-update this sticky piston as it moves forward. Now, I'm going to go ahead and update this once, and what's going to happen is this redstone block will zero tick this entire segment of blocks here back one. And this is basically like your startup ready to go area. And then as soon as I update it one more time, it's going to pull this back. It's going to pull this back, and the whole system is going to go, yeah, like this. Now, of course, to stop it, what you're going to want to do is update this sticky piston right after it moves forward one block. And then what's going to happen is it's going to zero tick that same set of blocks here back one block. So when this block moves forward, this sticky piston here won't be butted by that redstone block, so it won't move anything forward. So like this. As you can tell, this was zero ticked back, so this had no redstone block to power it, so this block never updated it. Now, I understand it's like, oh, well, that kind of looks funky at this point, so I don't really like it. So let's say, you know, you're leaving your machine, you're good, you've reached your destination. You can just do one of those, and hey, right back to normal, ready for round 2 of the spin cycle, I guess. And you can update it twice, one more time, and it'll keep going. But that's going to do it for Step 2, Part 1 of how to build giant robots in Minecraft, you guys. Again, if you haven't watched Video 1 for Step 2, Part 1, where I provide a block-for-block tutorial and an in-depth explanation of Mega Gargantua's StartStop Trigger, then I very much encourage you to watch that video as well, as there are announcements and surprises I'm sure none of you want to miss. Lastly, thank you, Cube, once again for the opportunity. Thank you to all of my subscribers as well. Your amazing feedback fuels me to build even crazier robots. So please, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And until Survival Sunday, you guys, later late.